Hello friends of Antonio Toledo, welcome to another video of this series in which I'm trying to get the Anthony York account to the top 10. And this is a series that I'm doing in English for my international friends. And actually, if you see the online ranking, we have this account in top 1, the Antonio Toledo YouTube, but now we're trying to get the Anthony York account into the top 10, right? And so far we have it already in the top 18th. And okay, this may seem that it's getting too easy to get to the top 10, but now it's gonna get a bit harder, like to escalate through this ranking, because now I start getting less points every time I win and I lose more points every time I lose. So it's not gonna be so easy, but if we see that I get to the top 10, maybe I will try to change the goal to get into the top 5 or something like that. I don't know, we'll see. Okay, I wanted to show a game that I think is interesting. It's, as you know, I'm always playing the Carioca. So in this game I'm playing against two very good players, Sufyan and Sergio. Very good players. And then in red there is Jihad. There's a player that had appeared other times in the channel. Actually, Jihad was in the game that I got to the top first. I mean, to the top 1 in the Antonio Toledo account. So yeah, it was there in probably my most important game, or my most important video as well. But actually I have to say that this player has evolved a lot. He's playing much better. He's a very creative player, attacking a lot. You see, it has some moments in which needs to learn to differentiate between an excellent move, a brilliant move, and a blunder. And there is a case of that in this video. I see that in a lot of like the new players, like for instance Sergey is playing very well, and he's also trying to do brilliant moves all the time. But yeah, the problem of trying to do a brilliant move in every single move is that sometimes you blunder pieces, and in some situations the easy clear move is the good move, right? The idea is to always find the good move. But okay, I start this game with the Carioca, Loca Carioca, as you know, always moving here. And there is something interesting that happens in this game that it happened other times playing the Loca Carioca, that I think it happens because people are not used to the opening, right? So, okay, I move the center pawn, red does a normal move, black aligns bishop and queen, as usual, and green start threatening me a little bit. And here, I mean, I being in this position already where green automatically threatens your pawns. And I think here, I will make a video of the Carioca when I study a bit more, but I think here the correct response is just to threaten the knight so it moves, and then you have a bit more breathing space. But okay, here I decided to continue with my normal opening. That's bringing the bishop back. Red does whatever, and then this is the thing that I see that people do, and it doesn't make much sense, right? But I think like here, the player in the diagonal, many times they're not used to this defensive structure in which these pawns are defended by the knights, and thinks that this pawn is hanging and just takes it, right? So they're actually just giving the bishop away. But then here, I mean, this is a mistake, but the green tries to capitalize on this mistake and takes there, right? So takes this pawn, so then is leaving this, is threatening this knight. Even if I'm gonna take the bishop, because of course I'm taking the bishop of the player that is in my diagonal. I don't care if I lose a knight. But the thing is, like, of course, after black takes, then the knight is defended and they can take, right? And I see myself here in this position in which I took here like a full minute thinking about this position, because okay, the normal move here will be just to move the queen. I was even thinking like, okay, this knight is hanging, like maybe I can move the queen and then go there. But if I move the queen, what is gonna happen for sure is that, okay, black is gonna go back, is gonna defend the knight, and then green is gonna take my bishop, right? So at the end, you're gonna be losing a bishop for a knight of green. So I was thinking about it, and with all of this so open, with this structure that is so open, I think the bishops are very important. So I decided, okay, if I'm going to lose bishop for a knight, I would rather just lose a rook for a knight, right? So I decided to lose the rook. And also I had some ideas, right? Because if black takes, then I threaten with the bishop, and then the black queen cannot go back directly because I will be taking the entire diagonal. Right, so the black queen is gonna need to, can take this pawn, it will just stay around here. But, I'm not losing my bishop, and I'm putting in some trouble to the black queen, and maybe the other players can capitalize on that. Like they can take advantage, then maybe they can start attacking with the pawns while I'm attacking the black queen. So that was my idea, to sacrifice the rook. And also this pawn, right? And this pawn you will see that is hanging many times in this game, but it's never taken. Keep an eye on this pawn. Okay, so is it turn of black? And maybe black saw it, that if they take the rook, I will attack it. They cannot go back. They need to start like moving around the board, while red or green can start attacking him. So actually, I was very happy to see that black decides to go back. So okay, then but the rook is still hanging, and green attacks my pawn, so I defend both the pawn and the rook. This was an interesting moment. Again, very creative, very attacking player. Red is a move that is maybe not so good, because it can always be answered with well, I know, not in this case, because many times this move can be answered with bishop in between the queen and the bishop, and if it's defended twice, then you end up just trading bishops. But okay, here I thought it was interesting. Maybe if they were gonna take one of the rooks, I attack the knight. And if they were taking one of the rooks, then, or even the bishop, it would have been maybe a good move from red, because they will be making green lose a bishop and a knight for a bishop, right? So it was not so bad. But okay, red decided to go back, and that's a good move. And here, okay, I start like, okay, I'm in a bad position. I just need to start getting my pieces into their correct places, right? So I take the rook out of the way. I connect both rooks, and I cover with the bishop. I don't want to have my queen in the diagonal of the king, right? I want the bishop to be doing that job. So, okay, I also take this rook out of the way, just in case. I move the queen, so I can bring the bishop touching the king, and then the next thing will be just to remove the bishop, this bishop that is a bit exposed here. Now we're in a compact defensive position, right? If you are defending, if you have been attacked like me, like everyone came to you sacrificing pieces, you want to be in a low exposure position, right? You just want to be like with all of your pieces ready, no checks are possible for my king, pieces are connected, nothing is undefended, and nothing is just, out in the wild where it can be easily attacked by a pawn or by a knight, right? Like if they want to attack me, they really need to come and get me. So that's the idea of my game now. It's just, okay, being exposed, I'm gonna get defensive. Okay, and then we see here a nice move by black, attacking both of the knights. And usually people, what will do here is just to move one of the knights and lose the other, right? But then it's interesting what I was saying, that the red is quite a creative player, and they do this, right? They put this pawn here, this knight here, saying like, okay, if you capture, then this diagonal is open, and black doesn't want this diagonal open. I don't want this diagonal open either, right? Like I'm under a lot of pressure. I don't want this diagonal open, but black doesn't want it either. So I think that it's quite a good strategy. But actually, of course, like black decides to take the other pawn. Here I always need to have pressure in this pawn. I have pressure, so I need to be careful with this pawn. And then, it's interesting that the black says, okay, so, red says, I'm not taking this pawn back, I'm attacking your bishop. Again, like, proposing a lot. Red, playing very active. So, black moves the bishop. I defend this pawn, and then red again sacrifices the knight to open this diagonal that is being so dangerous for both me and black, right? Like when I saw this move, I was like, wow, this is a really good move, but I really don't like it, right? Like for me, for my game, this is the worst that could happen. Now I'm even more exposed. Like I have the diagonals and this file open and also this column open, like everything is open. But okay, we're playing open Quaternity. So here I try to deal with the situation as good as I can. Like, okay, this needs to be always defended, it's attacked twice. So if I was here black, what I will try to do is like to move the bishop back and to put a knight, right? So you close the diagonal, putting a minor piece in between. The thing is that I don't have a minor piece. I only have bishops and rooks and the queen, so I'm not gonna put anything here. So it's a bit hard for me to see how to deal with this situation. And then there's another situation here where red is trying to be like brilliant, but this is I would say this is a mistake. Because if you see this, I mean, you move the bishop here. The next thing that you need to think, right, the thing that you need to calculate is what happens if black captures. If black capture, I'm never gonna capture that, right? Because if black capture and I capture, red will just go away, and then black with capture, so I will lose my bishop with check, right? With check that, green can take advantage and attack me, so I'm never gonna capture this. So, of course, like black is a good player and they take the bishop because they calculate, right? They see that if they capture and I capture, red can just move the queen and then they capture again. So I'm not gonna capture this. Even worse now that it gets defended. So, right, so if I capture, green could capture, so I'm never capturing this. So I just signal that to black, like even, like I don't want anything to do with this diagonal. I'm okay. I just want to survive a little bit more. Let's see if I can manage to do something in this game that I started like pretty badly, right? With everyone, I mean, not everyone, but with black and green attacking me. So, okay, black goes back, I go back, and then here, okay, I take this pawn because I think, okay, maybe I can try at some point to do the same thing, to open this diagonal for these players, so they also are like in trouble. And then, okay, red attacks my bishop and my pawn, and what I decide to do is to, okay, this diagonal that is, as I said, is so dangerous. I decide, okay, this pawn is blocking it, I'm gonna keep it blocked, and I'm giving this pawn away. But for the second time in the game, this pawn could be taken and it's not taken. So I'm very happy with that again. And then also, like, now this bishop here is doing a very good job because it's preventing this pawn from moving. And then this pawn is like creating kind of like a truce between black and me, right? So I'm very happy with that pawn. So, okay, I keep doing like some moves, and then here, like, there is this interesting moment in which red trying to propose something, right? Trying to create something interesting is just giving the queen for free to green. In any case, black defends the bishop, and then I really don't understand this. I think this is a mistake by green. Like, they decide not to take the queen. I think, like, if you have a queen, okay, it's for the price of a rook, but it's a queen. If you have a queen in Quaternity, my opinion, my take, my view of the game is that if you can take a queen, you take it. Because most of Quaternity players are not good enough to make checkmates with other pieces, right? So if you take the queen of a player, it's one player less giving checkmates. I mean, not 100% sure, right? But the probabilities that this player is giving checkmate, they are strongly reduced. So every time you can take a queen, you should take a queen. And even more, I would say that if you are not taking the queen of a player, it's a bit like patronizing. Like, you're saying, okay, you're not good enough for me to change my rook for your queen. You know, it's a bit of a disrespect. Like, if you can take a queen, just take a queen. Like, I'm 100% sure that if this was my queen, green will be taking it, right? Like, I don't know. For me, it's a bit like, it's not a good idea, and also I would say it's even like, I don't know, not respectful not to take the queen of a player. But okay, green decides not to take the queen, I block the pawn again. And okay, green starts like aligning the rooks. Now red is threatening my bishop, so I defend it. Here this pawn again is getting threatened all the time by this bishop, so I decided I need to be more careful so I can move this this queen freely. It doesn't need to be always looking at this pawn. This pawn is attacked again, so I defend it. And I start like trying to see, right, I don't have much to do, I think right now I'm probably the weakest player. More in a positional way than in a material. In a material, actually red is weaker. But my position is very open, and I have this align here, this align here. So I'm trying to use the time that I get in the moves of the other players to think about what is my strategy, right? I'm looking at positions like pieces that are not defended, possible checkmates in my diagonal, possible ideas like advancing this pawn. Like I'm trying to see what can I do, right? Like maybe if I put my queen here, advance my pawn, maybe I can, in the right moment, I can, create some opening. But okay, I'm actually not finding much. Red is still proposing things. And then, okay, this is a very interesting moment because black again, like finds a good move, like when no one was finding anything, it says, okay, I move the knight, so I'm attacking this pawn at the same time that I'm attacking this bishop that is attacked twice and only defended one, right? So the logical move, I will say, will be to say, okay, I just move the bishop and I'm gonna lose a pawn. It's not the end of the world that I'm losing a pawn. It's true, you're losing it with tempo because it's attacking the root, but it's not the end of the world. But here, red makes a mistake that is like, I think it's a mistake, it's trading bishops. Right, I'm very happy when I see that, and I'm thinking like, okay, maybe now I can even take this pawn, now that black doesn't have a bishop. And I get very surprised here because this is the moment where red makes a move that you don't know if it's a blunder or if it's a brilliant move. And to make a move like this, you really need to calculate it, right? And I think that red didn't calculate it properly. Because, okay, right now, what is going to happen if red does nothing, if red just moves the rook, green is losing a bishop. And that's very good for everyone, except for green, right? Like, I think if I'm red here, I will say, okay, green is losing a bishop, I'm just going to do a waiting move, and then I try to do something creative, something beautiful. After green is losing the bishop, I'm not saving that bishop. Okay, but then red does something very interesting and gives a check, right? So why is this interesting? Because he's saving the queen, right? And now in the next, it's protected by only by the bishop. And now in the next move, green could take this queen, right? So maybe it's like, okay, wow, this was a brilliant move, right? Because you actually did not sacrifice a queen. You made green take a queen, right? But what happened? That's what I'm saying, that you need to calculate this precisely. Because now what red does, moves the king, protecting the queen. And when it's the turn of green, green can decide where to take a queen for free or to take a queen and lose the bishop, right? So what is green doing? Obviously, is taking the queen, the free queen, right? So what it was just, you just had to do a waiting move, and then green is losing a bishop. Now you try to do something brilliant that, okay, I really appreciate the effort. Like, I think it was an interesting idea, very creative. But instead of making green lose a bishop, you end up just losing a queen, right? For the price of a pawn. So, okay, creative idea, but sometimes, being creative is not the only thing that we need to do, right? We also need to calculate precisely. And okay, here I see that I can take finally this pawn, but this pawn is attacked again. So first I defend the pawn, and now I take it. Right, and you will ask me like, okay, but why are you taking this pawn now, right? You were saying that this pawn was so good because it was blocking this dangerous diagonal. Okay, because my rival in the diagonal doesn't have a bishop anymore, right? So now I'm the king of the diagonals. I have both bishops and he has none. So I want that diagonal open. His rooks cannot attack me in the diagonal. His queen can, but right, it's gonna be more like my bishop are attacking his queen than his queen is attacking my bishops. So I always like, when I have a knight, I always like to put the bishop, like a threatening knight, in this position where it's covering all of the squares that the knight can go, right? So I do that to protect my camp from this knight, but again I'm hanging this pawn, and black can just come and take it. But for the third time in the game, this pawn gets a spare, so again, very happy about that. And then here, okay, they do a good job between the three of them actually. Like, okay, red is attacking. What I'm seeing here is that he's gonna come with this pawn, right? So I don't want this column to get open, so if he comes with this pawn, I will move this pawn forward, but then he will take here and he will be threatening my rook. So in order to avoid that, I move my pawn first. So if he takes, I take with the rook, and if he advances, I just advance, right? Because I would like to have this close with red. I cannot have more things open right now. But okay, he takes, that is the option that I like the less, so probably the best one. And I take with the rook, but again, now this is attack twice and only defended once. I could not deal with everything at the same time. And indeed red takes. I mean, green, sorry, I'm not doing very well with colors. Green takes, and what I decide is just to defend the queen. I could have moved the queen away and let black take the knight, but I was scared that he was not gonna do that, and then, I don't know, I was gonna allow some other ideas of, knight here. Well, that's protected actually. Yeah, but I don't know, I wanted to have my queen protected. So, okay, he goes back, the queen is now defended, so I also take my queen out. Then here, red is being sneaky, as he always is. And they attack my rook, and at the same time my queen gets attacked, right? So this is a situation that, okay, if I was, those players that do not control well their emotions, like you see, oh, you're attacking me twice, I'm gonna trade just queens. And, and you could just trade queens, and then you lose the queen and the rook. But then I said, okay, I'm gonna ask a question to red, like, will you trade your bishop for my rook? Like, we're both with not so many pieces, like, is this a good idea? And actually, red thinks about it and loses by time, right? So that's very good. When you have a player that is losing by time, ask him questions, right? Like, put him in difficult positions. That's at least what I try to do, right? When there is a player like losing by time, I don't try to move fast, so I make them lose by time. What I try to do is like, okay, try to put him in positions where they need to think, right? Where they need to take a decision. And okay, here there is one player less, and the first thing I do always is like, okay, is there any way in which I can give this player an easy checkmate? And I look at it and I could not see much, but then I see that if I can have a queen here that is defended by the bishop, right, since now I have the bishops, and this rook is not here, so, maybe there is a checkmate that I can do. So I see that and I get a bit maybe too focused on that, but okay, so I put my queen here, I just need the bishop here, and, if these rooks move, there will be a checkmate there. This was an interesting move, but I decided to take with the pawn. Black starts attacking me, and I decide to do that, and I think at that moment, like, I was already, like, also with not so much time, I forgot about this rook, so I put this here, like, kind of saying, okay, take the pawn if you want, because it will be checkmate. And black thinks a lot about it, actually, right? Like, they take some time thinking, and I mean, they probably like see that I'm seeing something that they are not, but I just actually made a mistake, right? I was seeing ghost. So, okay, they realize and they take the pawn. They attack my queen. This rook is hanging. I move the knight here, and I think that's a good reply, right? Because what I'm telling black is like, okay, if you take my queen, I mean, if you take my rook, I take your rook, right? And then I'm even threatening checkmate. So black defends both the knight and the rook. So I save my rook attacking the queen, and things start getting sharp. I see this and I like it even more. I say, okay, if there is a double check, now I don't even need to defend my queen. If I have my queen here and for instance my bishop here, that will be checkmate, right? Because this is covered, it will be double check. So okay, we get a check, and I didn't know what to do, where to just put the rook in between, but I decided to ask a question to green that is like, okay, do you want to trade queens? Really hoping that he doesn't want to trade queens, right? It will be very bad for him and me. But since green is a good player, I thought that I could ask this question. Okay, this was a mistake. I think, I mean, I was very low on time, but I think green was not looking as his knight here, right? Many positions after this, like he could have done something with the knight. So I move it back, and now black loses by time, right? And I'm again super tempted to just come here, you know, give it a check, and then a double check with a bishop here, or even with a bishop here, and that will be checkmate, right? I just need to come here, then bishop here, and that will be checkmate. 3 moves for a checkmate. Every time a player loses by time, you need to think about it, right? So, okay, they move the pawn, I move the queen, and you know, I realize that now I don't have the checkmate anymore, because if I do check with the queen, then they can checkmate with the pawn right away. But what I didn't see is that I could have first checked with the bishop, and then they don't have checkmate, but I do have checkmate, right? If I first check with the bishop, and then just move the pawn, it's not a checkmate, but if I check with the bishop, and whatever they do, I believe, unless I'm not calculating something properly, if I just check with the bishop, and then I check with the queen here, this is a checkmate. So that's what I should have done, but I didn't see. And then he puts the rook in there. I take this this knight, but my whole idea was to take this knight, right? This knight, for many ideas that I wanted to, if I want to block here with the bishop, or even just, I was just thinking that this knight here was very damaging because it could take one of the 2 rooks. When I do here, again, this knight here is very bad. Like, okay, I can take with the bishop, but then I'm losing the bishop. But for some reason, he's not seeing those things. So, okay, I just take the knight that I was so worried about. Okay, and then he trades rooks for bishop. Again, not a good idea, probably because there's not so much time. But the reality is that even if I was like weaker the entire time, like right now I have more pieces than him, right? So trading is good for me. So I just put the rooks in front. He makes this good attempt to attack this rook twice when I cannot defend with the rook, but actually I can just take this bishop. He trades rooks, and that's a bad idea. He checks, and what I do now, I think is something that is in these situations, if you're low on time, this is an easy way to make sure that you're not gonna hang any piece, right? First I give a check, and then I put my queen here, and all of my pieces are defended, right? So no matter how many checks he does, all of my, like, none of the pieces are ever gonna be hanging, right? So then he starts checking, and I have a very clear strategy that is like, okay, you're checking me, the more checks you give me, the more I'm gonna move with my king, and then I'm gonna go here and give checkmate just by putting my king here. And also the idea is, like, at some point, if you make a mistake and you make a check that I can defend with my queen, right, and also checking you, or like putting my queen between your putting your queen in the path of the king, then you will need to trade queens, and then I have 2 pieces, you have no pieces, I will win, right? So I try to go there, he's kind of blocking me, and then it's the moment that he puts the queen in the diagonal. Actually, I could have just taken with the rook, but I was just looking for this move, so then, I manage. And then, yeah, my strategy is easy. I just need to go there. I'm closer than him. Okay, he makes a check, trying something there, but nothing to do. I just checkmate it, and then he resigns. Well, he let the time run, right? So another game of Anthony York. I think it was interesting. There was no brilliant checkmates, but there were some interesting things to analyze, some of the moves of red. And also, I don't know, I think it's interesting to see that, you can start a game so terribly. Like losing both knights, both pawns, both central pawns, like, seems like everything is lost. And, you can, if you defend, you are compact, you get into a position in which people don't want to attack you, right? A position like this, where attacking you, you know, is worse for them than for you. Or, I mean, it's worse for them than for the other players, not for you. It's always going to be bad for you if they decide to trade pieces with you. But yeah, I mean, some interesting ideas. And we're already in the 18th. Let's try to get that a bit higher. Well, thank you very much and see you in the next video.